set to start momentarily. In fact, the games have begun. Robert, take it away.
Well, we see Wesley So starts with the white pieces, and I just caught your Ric Flair reference. And and as we see, actually, I have a private message from Mike Klein, who's feeding me stats, but he mentioned the 30 for 30 Nature Boy, which I also really enjoyed, the ESPN 30 for 30 and Ric Flair. Woo!
Yeah, that's right. The legendary Ric Flair. As I said, it was during the countdown. Sometimes I get so jazzed up, I get all the production done in advance, and then I have nothing to do but sit there and twiddle my thumbs or tweet. So that's when I get my tweets on. But all right, we got a 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬. Something tells me between these two players, Robert, we are going to see mainline theory. I think Wesley, by nature, is somebody who is not afraid of challenging people in main lanes. He's also just one of the most well-prepared players on the planet, and I know he really wants to win this match. And so I don't know that means we're going to see preparation, but unlike guys like Caruana preparing for the World Championship match, I mean, this is something where I expect both these guys to be bringing it 100% in the sense that, not that they don't always bring it 100% in the Speed Chess Championship, but no holding back as far as the openings that they really favor and think are the best. So I'm expecting we're going to see a lot more main lines today.
I completely agree with that assessment. And right now we see that Wesley has just taken the pawn on c5 here. So Wesley with the white pieces, giving his opponent this isolated pawn on d5. Now Wei Yi, he plays in principled manner with knight c6 because Wesley is playing very quickly at this point. But in this sort of setup, black is going on the activity and inertia because you pin this knight on f3. You can try to capture it at some point and play knight e5, but it's not that easy to regain this pawn on c5 in a very simple and straightforward manner, and especially with this move knight a4. That's why players take on c3 with the bishop sometimes, giving white the double pawns in the c file, hoping to regain that pawn on c5. But in this line after knight a4, yes, black can play queen e7 to try to get that pawn, but as you'll see, that even once you regain that pawn, you're still going to have problems in your position. You'll be left with an isolated pawn on the d file. You will have to give up the bishop, the dark square bishop, to take this pawn. So for example, after queen e7, a3, bishop takes c5, I can even simply take on c5 back, play pawn to b4, play bishop to b2, and just really challenge black's opening choices.
Yep. Highlighting that on the analysis board for the fans, I completely agree with you, especially with the bishop pair for white and the potential of this positional weakness. You just you got to be thinking that white's going to be getting the better out of this opening, and we actually looks like we've actually seen that line on the board here. No, we're still at the position with knight a4. Okay, so Wei Yi going into the first real think we've had by either player, and down more than a minute on the clock. One thing about Wei Yi is we don't really know how he's going to handle this format, these time controls. He doesn't play as much online blitz, as you see. Wesley still bringing in the 3,000 plus rating. Anybody who follows him on chess.com knows he's been north of 3,100 at times, up there with the likes of guys like Hikaru and MVL. So I know how Wesley handles himself. He's also got experience here. This is going to be an interesting start to the match, but maybe Wei Yi's just thinking to get the cobwebs out of his head. It is early in China, and he did just wake up a few minutes before this got started. So we'll see if that either continues to be a trend or if he speeds up.
Yeah, and I think psychologically as well, he just came off a tough defeat in the tournament he's playing in China. And in fact, he's around 3 hours after this.
We should let the fans know that, because for those who don't appreciate what these players are doing, Wei Yi was super flexible with us, and he's playing the tournament leader in Danzhou in about 6 hours from now. So, but clearly he's got his priorities straight. You start the day off right with some Speed Chess Championship Wheaties. Yeah,
and playing Wesley So is pretty good preparation. Playing him for hours, because you may say this is speed chess, but at the same time you're playing very serious openings against a very serious opponent. And after this move knight to e4, which was just played, that's a very good way to go after this pawn on c5, because white can play a3 now, but now when bishop takes c5, it looks like you may have an in-between move with bishop takes e4, but the problem is that after pawn takes e4 back, the knight on f3 will be in trouble as well. So the bishop on c5 is left en prise, but the knight on f3 is going down at the same time, and that actually seems favorable for black. So you don't want to try to get greedy for white at this early stage of the game.
Well, I think we're probably going to see exactly that line you're talking about. Wesley went into a bit of a think himself there. I expect Wei Yi to capture, and though I agree with you that I think this is a better version for him in the sense that after takes on c5, knight takes, probably Wesley has to save this bishop, might even just bring it back to e2 to unpin before playing b4, unlike the variation you showed where b4 came with a tempo on the queen. But it still feels like white will be the one playing for two results, right? White will maintain the bishop here. You still have this isolated pawn on d5. So I guess I'm still still favoring white, and now Wesley comes up with an interesting, maybe even a creative way to try to win a piece, Robert. Is he hoping that after takes f3, is he going to take with the pawn? Try to dislodge the knight?
He definitely would like to take with the pawn there, but there's some queen g5 check action going on where you go to h2, then I bishop d6 check. But if you go to h1, I just have something straightforward like queen h4, and
queen h4 or queen h5, and all of a sudden h3 is hanging. So, okay, interesting. We're going to find out right now. Perhaps Wesley just takes with the queen and says, I was really just happy to get the bishop pair and not trying to win a piece. But something tells me maybe Wesley calculated something. He's pretty focused there. Remind everybody that, of course, the prize fund on the line today is $2,000 cash coming from the initial base from chess.com. Any and all of you following and subscribing and showing your support, all donations raised today go directly into the pockets of these players. And show them your love. If you see something you like, send us a message and we'll try to read it on air. All right. We're going to get a draw? Little
I
repeat?
don't think so. Well, if you start going too hard for white here, for example, if you take this knight on e4, I have queen takes h3 check, and if you have king g1, I think I just go knight e5.
Yeah, now who's on the attack?
That looks like black is much better in that situation. But if you go king g2 for white, well, then you're saving the f2 pawn, you're saving h3, and it's definitely feasible we see some kind of queen g5, queen h4.
Well, that's what I was thinking. If we're not going to do that, or we might be headed for perpetual, right? That's why I asked. But he goes for it. I think something tells me we have a queen sack to start this baby off.
But just knight e5 here. And if you, I guess knight e5, you're going to try to sack with knight takes c5. But then I go knight g4, not even knight f3, knight g4. That way I get a take on g4 with check.
That's a really, really great point, because this would not have been as good, everybody, after takes and takes. White might have an extra move now to try to get out of the perpetual, and 3 minor pieces will probably slowly outplay the queen. But a move like knight g4, as Robert said, would be a much, much different experience for white, because taking with check means black now has an extra move, maybe to attack the knight, do some other things to try to get the rook in the attack. So you got to be careful, even if you get a lot of material for the queen, when your king is the one open, right? Because that's exactly how the queen flexes her muscles if your king is under an attack.
Yep. And the reason why I know these ideas is because I have played the Nimzo as black for a very long time. And I remember looking at these sort of positions years ago. You just kind of give up a piece if white gets greedy. Now play rook a d8, for example, and bring rook to d6, and you just go for check. Now queen g3 check first. One of these moves, I'm not sure of the exact order. I think queen g3 check, king h1, and then rook d8 looks really good.
Well, and what's interesting is with Wesley playing f3, note everybody, he's conceding a draw. Right now it's very clear he said, well, maybe I shouldn't have taken that piece, because this sort of approach means that black can take a minute here, literally a minute, if he wants to see if he's winning. Even under time pressure, if he thinks he's winning, he'll go for it. If not, he'll settle on the draw and maybe say, I got on the board to start with a peaceful result. I'm a little more awake than I was an hour ago. No, Wei-Yi wants the whole thing. Shout out to Roman Chessman, who just came through with our first donation going into the pockets of Wei-Yi and Wesley. So thank you for that. Okay, f4. This is going to be... This is what I want. This is what I want today, Robert. Can you feel me through the miles between us in New York? Just imagine I'm feeling you right there. Like, in a good way, we're feeling each other.
Well, I mean, I know you love sacrifices. That's definitely a Danny Wrench specialty. And you also love sacrificing your queen. That I remember, from a long time ago.
Yeah, but who doesn't like sacrificing their queen, right?
He would agree to a draw there. I think that black had the upper hand